I messed up tonight. I lost another fight. I still mess up, but I'll just start again. I keep falling down. I keep on hitting the ground. I always get enough. See what's next. Birds don't just fly. They fall down and get up. Nobody learns without getting it wrong. I won't give up, no I won't give in till I reach the end and then I'll start again. No, I won't leave, I wanna try everything, I wanna try even though I could fail.
Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to Zootopia Minute, the minute-by-minute podcast where we review, analyze, and criticize everybody's favorite hit Disney film of now 2 years ago, Zootopia. I am your host, Simul, and I am here with my friend, as always.
Choco, and are we now on the Gorilla channel, or what's this now?
There's probably a gorilla channel in Zootopia, I imagine. Specifically for gorilla content. Gorillas have their, every demographic has their own content.
That's my favorite thing to do at night is just to, sit on my bed, watching gorilla channels, watching them fight, talking to them while eating a cheeseburger. It's like my favorite thing ever.
This year is off to a great start, for sure. And we are off to a great start with this year, back here at the Zootopia Minute podcast. We're on minute number 44. So if you're following along, that means we're going to be from 4400 to 4459 in the timestamp there. This minute begins right as Flash is finishing up with that joke, right on the word humped there, a 3-humped camel. And it goes all the way to another awesome full sentence. Judy saying, "What is your problem? Does seeing me fail somehow make you feel better about your own sad, miserable life?" And it's a full sentence, which never happens on the show, which is great. So this minute is all about them finally getting the information back on that license plate number. Nick and Judy went to the DMV to look up a license plate number, which was described by Yax when they were over at that naturalist club, because they're looking for Emmett, the missing otter. And they trace this number back, they go and visit a place and find out where it might be.
Yep. And the license plate number was, once again, 29THD03.
Yes, there will be a quiz on that later.
Yes. All right, this was a pretty interesting minute. I will say this is another minute where Nick won me over, and I identified more as a Nick in this case.
Why is that?
Okay, so it's towards the end of the minute where Nick is reacting. But, okay, so when Nick was basically being condescending to Judy, saying, well, they should have got a real police officer on the case, and whatnot. And actually his response to what Judy says, so it's going to be in the next minute. But it's like, yeah, that's kind of like me. I kind of like being a douchebag. I kind of like seeing other people fail around me just because it makes me feel better about myself. This probably makes me a bad person, but hey, there's another character who represents that kind of viewpoint. So I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Nick, my fox husband, also feels the same way. I'm not like that in real life, but I kind of think that way.
Nick is sarcastic for sure. I don't know if he's like outright aggressive or mean necessarily, except when he's sort of in a pinch or put into a tight spot, which he has been with Judy on some occasions, so it might be somewhat justified. But before we get too far into the minute, because that's sort of near the end, we'll kind of go through it chronologically like we do here. First of all, I want to point out here, the most unrealistic part of the whole movie is the moment in this scene when finally Flash is printing out the results of the license plate lookup, and he pulls out a paper that came out of the printer, and it's got perforations on the bottom, and he very slowly pulls it out, and it comes off with no tears whatsoever. Unrealistic. Everyone knows you have to pull those things super fast or you get a tear in it.
No. If you pull it slow, it also works too. See, he has the patience.
Are you sure? I don't know. Every time I've meticulously really gotten up close and be like, okay, I'm not going to tear this, and tried tearing it slowly, it feels like the more carefully I try to tear it, the more likely it is that the thing is going to tear.
Or are you tearing regular grade paper or more cardstock? Because based on what this looks like, it kind of feels and sounds more like cardstock.
I'd say it's probably the same thickness as normal paper. It just has those perforations built
I have
in.
a feeling it's index card size, or
maybe.
Or the printouts you get when you go to the Southwest booth and you get your little ticket and has little perforations to keep, I will just say that's one of the most satisfying parts of this minute, just hearing that perfect tear. I'm just like, oh, that's like beauty. That's like scenery porn right there.
Yeah, it could be on R oddly satisfying or whatever when things line up or just work out perfectly. That is satisfying, right? When you tear something and it's perfect, there's no little dangly bits hanging off. It's like just that perfect straight line.
Well, there's like YouTube videos of like the most satisfying things.
Yeah, just compilations, just playlists. Add this to the list. That's perfect.
See, I don't think I really got into that area when I was studying psychology, but I'm sure there's a reason why some things just feel universally satisfying for humans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe it's just our mind. We like trying to find order in things when things are just nice, neat, and orderly. It just
right.
Makes
And
sense.
how much of that is a natural human inclination, and how much of it is learned behavior? That's just like a construct that everyone says this is satisfying, so you grew up thinking it is satisfying, and it does satisfy you because.
But I think there is some universal inkling that's kind of ingrained in our nature. Like actually, the reason why we humans actually, a lot of us do like the ideas of conspiracy theories. You know, Apollo moon landing was fake, the flat Earth, whatnot, is because we like to find patterns and connections and things. And that's why you see a lot of conspiracy theorists. It's like they're not just quacks and
No, they do it because it does something for them. They feel special, like a special privileged, knowledgeable group that's figured out the secret.
Well, it's also you could see they're not like dummies and they just listen to someone and they actually make their own conclusions. A lot of these crazy conspiracy theories, they have like all these big spider webs of everything being perfectly connected in their minds. There's all these mental gymnastics of things connecting, and that's actually ingrained part of us as humans. We like finding connections and things, even
patterns,
whether the connections exist there or not, whether they're coincidence or not. So we like making those connections, which is why for those in psychology, like the idea of conspiracy theories are actually not too far-fetched because they're just doing what the human mind is actually built for.
Right.
And actually on the paper, so we can actually get a closer look at that paper. You can see there's a nice DMV logo. Again, I love the logos and stuff. I was trying to find if there's a seal of Zootopia or a Zootopian flag. Actually, I did find the Zootopia flag in a later minute. But we can actually see a close-up of what the DMV logo looks like, and it's kind of nice, kind of flashy. The thing that stands out is we actually get the address, which is 755 Evergreen Drive in Tundra Town, and the limo service is the Tundra Town Limo Service, luxury limos. So we get some information there, which is kind of nice. Like, we're not going to pause the movie in the movie theaters and have to read it, but it's kind of nice that it's all out there.
Here's my point about that, or my complaint. It's not really a complaint, just an observation, I suppose. But the information that prints out on that paper is literally just enough information for it to be useful to them. There's like nothing more and nothing less. I don't think an actual printout for a license plate lookup would look like that. I think it would have more information, like, you know, the vehicle identification number and, you know, the person whose name it's actually registered in specifically, what type of car it is.
Are you thinking it's one of those situations where they just need a plot point to get them to the next plot point? It's just
it absolutely is. Because the people that made this movie said, we don't need the audience to see all that extra info. It's superfluous. It might just confuse them. None of this is significant. All that's significant are these 3 lines, right? Like the address of the company, what the company is, and what the actual license plate was. That was all that was on the paper, and that's all we get. And so I don't think a real lookup would even look like that. I don't even know why they're still using paper printouts. You could probably do all of that on a computer. Actually, yeah, considering they've got iPads in front of them, how is it that they have iPads to punch all this stuff in, and then you get it on like an old school 1970s paper printout?
I think it would actually go along with our theory. I think we discussed it in previous minutes, that this scene was kind of the first built scene. Like, it was the funny scene. It was the one they wanted to show in all the trailers and teasers and whatnot. So the DMV scene was actually the first scene they kind of had planned, and it was the first scene they kind of animated, and they had to kind of just fit it in the movie. If you take out the scene, it's not actually really needed. Like, she could actually just go straight to a police station, do a lookup.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, they could have done that, but...
Yeah, so it kind of... This would, I guess, going along your lines of thinking, it would kind of keep in our little theory that, yeah, this was just a scene that they kind of shoehorned in, and was there just for the trailers, and they had to kind of fit it into this specific case, and they didn't really think too much about it. Yeah,
but I still wouldn't call it shoehorning, because I do think it's still a very good scene. It's
it's a good scene, but
yeah. So moving on here, that's what we see on the page as it's being printed out. Flash then goes to sort of reach for it, tear it off very slowly, and goes to hand it to Judy and goes, "Here, you go. But before he can even finish that sentence, Judy is snatching it out of his arm, even as his arm is still moving towards her to hand it. And this is another example of how is this not perceived as incredibly rude by the sloths, unless they're just so used to it by now.
Like, she's talking while he's still, like, in between words.
Yeah. Or we had that theory of maybe they think incredibly quickly, or they think at the same rate that regular people would. And so in their head all the time, there was like, yes, 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 I know, come on, come on, come on, yes, yes, yes. Just over and over. If he's just thinking to himself like, oh my gosh, this stupid rabbit, I can't believe it. She's such, so rude to me. Oh my gosh, just wait for me, come on, be nice, come on. Could be.
Yeah, so we'll see how that happens.
Yeah, well, Judy finally reads what's on the page and is ready to go. She's headed out the door. Nick gives a quick goodbye to Flash, and Judy says, come on, we got to get out there. We've got a limited time. If we're going to beat rush hour, we got to get out there. They get outside, and Judy proclaims, it's night? Because we see night has indeed fallen. It is now dark outside. And to me, the first thing I thought when I saw that in the theater was, this is exactly how I feel every time I step out of a movie theater.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Every time I go to the movie theater is always right before sundown.
Yeah, like you come out and it's like, oh, wow, it's suddenly way darker than when I came into this room. Because most theaters either feel sort of underground or they're just enclosed in such a way that there's no windows, obviously, because you don't want any light filtering in. And so then you finally get back outside and it's like, whoa, it could be like a year that has passed and I wouldn't have known.
It's strange because so we just watched the following scenes, obviously, since we're recording minute by minute, but there's no cuts in the scene. Like we saw everything that happened when they walked in, talked to Flash, and got the printout and left, right? Mm-hmm. Was there a cut somewhere?
What do you mean a cut?
Like, okay, so when they got inside, it was still bright outside and there was a big crowd of people. And we followed them completely.
Oh, you mean where was the time skip?
Yeah.
When did that actually happen?
Was the time skip right before the printout? I'm thinking it might be before the printout. But
that's a good question, though, because they also didn't even wait in line. They just went right to the front. So... that's tricky, isn't it? It's like they're missing time.
Okay, now I'm thinking about it. See, the irony of watching it minute by minute. Watching minute by minute, we could easily dissect things. But in a case like this, I think our minute kind of was in that period where Flash was finishing his joke, what do you call it, 3 humped. And after humped, he didn't finish his joke because we assumed he's going to continue it, and it just cuts to the printout. So I think the time cut jump was there, but because we're watching it 1 minute in context, it just seems odd.
It does. If you watch it in a more legato fashion than we are, I suppose it makes much more sense, or it's not something you pay attention to. You're right. So if there was a time cut, it must have been about there at the end of him telling his joke. But here's the thing. We either assume that then that whole conversation went on much longer and that's what caused this huge delay, or if he did indeed finish looking up the license plate, all the time must have just been processing time for the computer to find it or something.
I'm assuming that after he told his joke that Nick basically egged him on and started causing more delays just to kind of mess with Judy.
It could be. Because if it really was just that their computer system is slow, it kind of undoes the whole joke with the sloths anyway. So that's not likely. Yeah, I've never thought about that. And maybe, again, another example, maybe the writers didn't think too hard about that either. It's just, we need this line in here. We need to make this a joke. This is the point we need to get across. Don't think too hard about it. They aren't counting on people like us, Choco, who go in and dissect every little piece.
Yeah.
They don't know about fandoms. They don't know. They probably know.
Probably no. Okay, so fast forward, we actually get to see that it's dark outside. They actually do get to the limo area. And
in Tundra Town.
Yeah, Tundra Town, luxury limos. And I was looking
luxury
at the side.
Refrigerated limos.
That's what I wanted to bring up. It said refrigerated luxury limos, which is, okay, that's interesting. So it's refrigerated on the inside. So I'm guessing these limos are catered to Arctic type creatures.
Yeah, it's for taking these Arctic guys outside of Tundra Town where it's hot outside and so they need to stay nice and chilly inside. Because, I mean, usually you would say climate-controlled limousine. That's a normal thing to say. The way that they worded it, refrigerated, is kind of funny, even though technically it's the same technology. It's the same sort of science going on to keep the inside of a real car cold as the inside of a refrigerator.
But, I mean, we as humans would not like that. We like, okay, unless it's really hot outside, a refrigerated limo will be nice, but in most situations, especially now that there's a big cold front. Yeah, it's like we don't want to go inside something cold. We would rather have it nice and warmed up for us.
Yeah. I think the use of the word refrigerated, that's a technically accurate term to even just describe regular air conditioning in a car. It's identical technology. It is refrigeration. That is what's happening. We don't say refrigeration. I think they put refrigeration on that sign just to drive home like, ha, they're in the Arctic. Get it? You know?
Yeah. It's a funny
I did
sign.
think that
It's
was
like
funny.
it's like little things like this makes Zootopia fun.
Yeah, so here's what has happened now. They have arrived in Tundra Town. They're at this big gate with a big padlock on it, and this is the gate entrance to this limousine company, and they find, it is locked. It is locked. They can't get in. Business hours are over. They missed it because it took so long to get that license plate number looked up. They missed the business hours, and now they're there after dark, which Judy is not happy about. Judy, in fact, goes on to kind of blame Nick. Nick is just kind of, oh, yeah, isn't that a bummer? Too bad. And Judy's just fed up. Judy said, you know what? You did this on purpose. You were definitely trying to slow me down. You're just trying to see me fail. And Nick says, what? Ma'am, I'll have you know I'm wearing a fake badge, and I would never try to hinder your little pretend investigation. Now, there's a whole lot in that statement there. So, yes, he is wearing a fake badge. It is that little sticker that Judy gave to Toot earlier.
Again, this is another moment that, like I said earlier, won me over with Nick. And the fact that he used the phrase pretend investigation, yeah, that's actually something I use too when I'm trying to be nice but condescending.
So this is what you relate to specifically.
Yeah, okay, so I have friends who are bronies and furries, and I have had some friends who have started up cons without knowing how to run cons, like small cons, and they're like, I sometimes I just have fun. I just go to these cons, and like they're all stressing out, and then they're trying to be all serious with management and stuff. I'm like, well, this is just kind of pretend management. You don't really know what you're doing, are you? And then I kind of said something like that. I forgot what situation, but I said that to one of my furry friends. Like, we got into a little discussion between education and experience. And he was saying, like, stuff he was doing in the furry fandom was, like, experience. And I'm like, well, yeah, it could be experience. But even if you...
It's not experience running a con.
I don't know if it was a con situation, but I remember the saying that even if you did study a lot of books about medicine, you're like one of the best learned on medicine. You can't just go into a surgery room and perform surgery. Like, you have to have that background.
It's like when people say you learn more on the first day of the job than all the years of school you had before.
Yeah, so I remember I don't think it was, I forgot if it was for a meetup or something, but I remember referring to one of my friends' thing as like a pretend thing, and I think that got him really upset. And I was like, yeah, I was probably in a grumpy mood back then.
Pretend convention.
Yeah, I think I was because it's like obviously these cons that they're doing, they're not like a Comic-Con or a BronyCon or like even an Anthrocon. Yeah. These are like small little meetup things, and they think, oh, it's easy just to run a con. Like I could just grab a group of friends and do it. And it's like, no, it's much harder than that. Like there's a lot of things that you need to do, and so I have used that phrase before, and that's probably where I identify with Nick, but it also kind of makes me realize, yeah, I'm probably a smug little cynical person like Nick in a fun way, which is good or bad depending on how you look at it. But it's like, yeah, you go, Nick. So I love that scene. I also do identify with Judy too, because she's trying to show the human element in this. She's basically telling Nick, whether you think this is pretend or not, this is a real otter's life on the line, and don't you care? So yeah,
it's just kind of
good points.
Brutality here from Nick. He even says, shouldn't they have sent a real cop for this pretend investigation, implying both that Judy is not a real cop. Okay, first of all, if it's a pretend investigation, what do you need the real cop for, Nick? Come on, get your stuff together.
I have said the same thing as well. I don't think I've used the term pretend. Or why don't they send a real? I think I said, oh, you're basically just a role player. I forgot which situation it was, but
That's even more brutal, I think. Oh my gosh.
Like, I forgot which fandom, if it was the anime or furry fandom, but I think there was someone who was acting really serious. I think they were maybe in a suit or like a military cosplay or something, but I think they were also running like the security of a con or something. Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, you should have probably got a real security team and not just roleplay the role of security.
Actually, for legal reasons, a lot of cons opt not to call their security.
Yeah, like most...
Including Everfree. For legal reasons, you shouldn't call it security. Like our Everfree is called Royal Guard.
Yeah, well, most sci-fi cons, you'll notice that they have a group called Flare, and Flare is their security team. I think Babs Con, since it also kind of descended from the sci-fi cons, their security is also called Flare.
It should be called Mare.
I trying to remember what Flare stands for, but no, you're right. In fact, in most cases, yeah, you can't really bring on like real. Like, you could hire real security, but that gets into other legal reasons. So most times you have people who are kind of like veterans in the con security, fan security outlet that you see as commonplace in all these cons. So, for example, when I was in Baltimore Comic-Con, Otakon, and BaltCon, all the sci-fi and fandom cons in Baltimore, you saw the exact same security teams, like basically the same department heads, the same people doing all the different aspects of security. Even though someone for like a sci-fi con might not be an anime fan, they'll still be doing security for Otakon just because it's like, okay, that's like the default team. Yeah. And that's actually one of my initial criticisms with BronyCon when I first moved there, because the same groups of people who've been running security for all these fan cons in Baltimore for a while offered to do the exact same thing, but they're like, no, you have to reapply again and start from the front. And a lot of, like, one of my roommates, like, he actually was like the department heads for like security for Otakon, a lot of these cons. They kind of just made him like a regular. They start him at the bottom, and it's like, oh, but he kind of had the experience of doing it, so why don't you just make him department captain or something like that? I
mean, that kind of thing always crops up in these sorts of circles, I guess. But
that's interesting. But for Judy, I'm surprised she's like holding her own. Like, Nick is obviously trying to get to her. Not only did he just waste her entire day in a DMV with sloths, but now he's saying that her investigation's a sham, that she's not a real cop.
Rough day for Judy.
Her first day, right?
No, not her first
second
day.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
See, it's been so long since the previous minutes. She's getting a bunch of abuse from Nick, but she hasn't broke down crying. Like, if I was in Judy's shoes, I would probably like have completely stressed out and gone berserk, but that kind of shows how strong Judy is as a character.
Yeah. Well, this minute ends with Judy on the line. What is your problem? Does seeing me fail somehow make you feel better about your own sad, miserable life? And that's where we leave this minute, and we'll have to come back next time to see what happens. But yeah, definitely a rough ride for Judy so far.
Yeah. And I think that's actually what my furry friend I had a discussion with basically kind of said to me. And I don't know what Nick's answer is, but my answer would have been yes, it does.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what happens next time in this grand year of 2018. How has your year been so far? We hope it's been great for everyone out there listening to us. Choco, how has your 2018 been so far?
I've been wasting it watching the Gorilla Channel.
Oh.
That's it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I'm preparing for cons. Like, so 2017, I've attended, I think, 22 cons, and at least 21, basically all those cons were all vending cons. So it was almost like 2 cons a year. So this year is just in that phase where I'm applying for all the cons again, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah, makes sense. It'll be exciting. Did you make any resolutions?
Okay, well, I was hoping I would draw at least one piece of art a day, do the 1 art a day challenge for a year, and then my resolution to get some of I've been having comic book ideas bounce around my head for a while. I've been trying to get them done for years now, so this year I'm going to get those done, but I already did not fulfill my resolution because I have not been drawing every day, so there we go.
Now it's over for good. You might as well give up and never draw for the rest of the year either, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's what too many people do with New Year's resolutions, or not even New Year's resolutions, just resolutions in general, commitments they want to make is once they slip a little bit, they say, well, now it won't be 100% perfect, so what's the point of trying anymore at all? That's something I've tended to do as well.
Yeah,
it's not
from a
healthy.
psychological standpoint, the problem is most people make their resolutions too vague and too wide. And for real resolutions, you have to make it narrow, achievable, and specific. So instead of saying, I'm going to lose weight, say, I'm going to lose 5 pounds.
I'm going to lose this much pounds. Yeah, exactly.
Instead of saying,
this
I'm going to be better in my life. It's like, well, I'm going to start doing this and this. You have
I'm going to suck less this year.
Yeah, like you have to narrow it down and just hit what you need to do. I actually never really played that New Year's resolution game. It's never been something that's like, I'm going to make a resolution now. I'm going to do this. It's like, another year.
I think people tend to think of the new year as being this nice monolithic date to get a fresh new start, but really, people ought to know. You can do that anytime. Anytime you want to make a decision.
You even knew deGrasse Tyson was like, it's not important. There's no astronomical
Okay, no.
meaning
No. I don't even mean that, and I hate that. Because, yeah, he's correct, but who the hell asked you? Doesn't matter. I don't think anyone I don't know, because I'm in a state of, like, being book smart enough that a lot of things seem like common knowledge to me, but I don't actually know how common the knowledge is. And I don't like, do people actually think there is an astronomical significance to when the new year is? I don't think anyone does. So that tweet that he made about that just made me, it felt petty and like, I got to tweet something today, you know, like.
I think he mentioned it in the Joe Rogan podcast because he got a lot of criticism lately for like ruining movies like Gravity, Interstellar, Star Wars. Like he all of a sudden is like a film critic now. And it's weird because like it's like kind of like the Ben Carson situation. I knew deGrasse Tyson before he became like a popular meme. Like when I was younger, I used to be really into astronomy. I used to read almost every single book in astronomy. Actually, I read every single astronomy book in my local library at the age of 4th grade. And Neil deGrasse Tyson was in every single astronomy documentary I loved. Yeah. And so I kind of knew him before he became a meme. And now he's a meme. I'm just like, he's not, I don't like him anymore. So.
Same. There were like those few key popular science figures that had some recognition before they like really, really blew up. I remember seeing Neil deGrasse Tyson in a bunch of old documentary films and stuff when I was younger, and also Michio Kaku. I saw him in a lot of stuff, and I started recognizing them between different things. It's like, oh, it's that guy again.
Well, Michio Kaku is weird because he's actually a friend of my dad, and it stands out more now because my dad has like a hairstyle that looks exactly like him. So I'm like, wow, like he just copied his hairstyle. So.
That's very cool. How great is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is a brand new year. Lots of cool new stuff could happen. Lots of cool stuff may already have happened. We certainly hope that 2018 turns out great for all of you listening. And we want to give a big thanks for sticking with the podcast for so long.
And I have a resolution for this podcast that we actually finish this movie.
Yeah, we'll do it. We're still working on it. All right, guys, that'll do it for this episode of Zootopia Minute. If you did enjoy, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a follow on Twitter at Zootopia Minute. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Tumblr. And if you've got anything you'd like us to know, you can send it to our email, zootopiaminute@gmail.com. Once again, guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a blessed 2018.
And make sure to subscribe to the Gorilla channel.
Subscribe.